So guys, for this specific tutorial, I jumped back on my Ikari project and I've done a pretty awful thing just to prepare my timeline for a web export. I put on my timeline a lot, and this lot will be applied on all the sequence. So just to be really fast, I've done something like this, and I'm gonna talk you about the best export settings for web. So I'm gonna go on our deliver page, and one thing that you have to know on the deliver page is that if you want to render the entire timeline, you just have to press entire timeline. If you want an input output range, you can just set this with I and O. And if you're asking why this is yellow and why if I click there it selects the end of the clip, is just because the render is set to individual clips. So you want to render out one individual single clip, and this will help you check the input and the output in the best way. But talking about export settings, I normally bypass totally the YouTube Vimeo thing. I do it custom, and I think it's the way it works the best. If you want to have the best export possible for the connection, if you're uploading on YouTube and your connection handle something like 10 gigabytes, 12, 15 gigabytes, I'll always go for Apple ProRes 422 HQ or standard 422. This one, in my opinion, are the best ones. These are pretty heavy, but are the best ones for the web. So I normally stick with that. I go there. Resolution is not that much of a matter, but it's much of a matter the type of codec and the type of subcodec that you're using than the resolution, in my opinion. You can do a 2K 422 or a 4K 864. The 2K 422 will always be better. So in my opinion, you can stick with that and maybe load the overall resolution. It's fine for the web. And even because normally, the second thing I might tell you is that if you don't have a great connection, you can even set this to H.264. But normally, the thing about H.264 is that Vimeo or YouTube are gonna reconvert and recompress the codec of your video. So sticking with Apple ProRes, or even if you are on a Windows DNX HD or HR, it's fine. But being on Apple ProRes, it's for me the greatest way. Then advanced settings, we want to leave it on square. Leave your data levels on auto and not on full will screw up everything. Auto will set it on the best point, that is the highest, by the way. Data burn in, if you put that on, same as project. If you want to use optimized media, I don't know why, but I'll leave that dechecked always. Render cached image dechecked always. Enable flat pass. What this basically does, it enable to export your video without the grade. You might have deactivate your grade from the clip and you're like this. You can do that and export it, and you will have an ungraded image, and that's okay. But sometimes if you have to do that to something like 100 clips, it won't work. If you want to bypass this and save the program, I bypassed everything and I want it all flat, you just have to enable flat pass and say always on, and decheck all this tree, tone mapping to, bypass reading code when possible, and that subtitle settings. Jumping into file. Oh, and remember to export audio when you have it. Linear PCM, it's always the best one. File, you can choose to use a custom name or just timeline name. You can use the digit in your file name, and there you have another important thing, the render speed. If your PC or Mac it's working good with your render, just leave it to maximum. If it's buggy or if it's not handling well a really heavy timeline or footage, just take more time setting this to even 1 if you have something like an 8K footage. It will take more time, but it will work better, in my opinion, if it's not handling this great. Sometimes you might have a machine that at the maximum speed, it's rendering out timelines that have some bugs on one part or another, or some glitches because, during some part of the render, it speed up, the CPU and something goes wrong in the rendering. And yeah, I just want to set it lower if it's not working, and that's fine. But by the way, the biggest things on there, some video, Apple ProRes 42 HQ, and you want to have it even at 2K instead of having a 4K H.264. The color space, in my opinion, it's always, better, or sorry, not the color space, but the codec. It's always, better to have a higher codec than a higher resolution. So maybe do it 2K, it's fine. You can even change the overall resolution. You might have, as said at the beginning, you might have set this to this tiny resolution, and you can change it for the output. You can maximize that just for the output, and that's it. So remember to stick with that. You can have time resolution really tiny just to boost everything up, and then change it on the output. It's fine. It won't affect your image, and nothing more. If you want to render each clip, just say individual clips and not single clip. The main difference is on the color there, as you're seeing. And yeah, and now let's pass to the best export on lossless for high-end results for cinema or for broadcast.